Welcome back to Gotcha Interact. Today we're going to be talking about a pre-release, looking at some things, looking at a new character, Qingyi, for Zenless Zone 0. So without further ado, Rift, what can you tell us about her skills?
So jumping right in and looking at her basic attacks. Her first basic attack is called Penultimate. This is basically just her regular, normal chain of attacks that she will do, just like any other character does as well. She also has a thing called Enchanted Blossoms, which right now, looking at the versions and stuff, the information that we're working with says to press the basic attack to activate, but because you're pressing the basic attack to activate that penultimate that I just mentioned, I'm getting the feeling that you're going to hold it, and I'll get a little bit into that here in just a second as well. Now, looking a little bit further into her basics, there actually is a mechanic tied to this that's going to be a big deal to how you actually play Qingyi, and this has to do with a mechanic in her kit called Flash Connect. This just states that when Qingyi deals electric damage with any skill, she accumulates Flash Connect voltage. Now, when this voltage reaches 75%, she will enter the Flash Connect state. And when using her basic attack, Enchanted Moonlit Blossoms, that I will talk about here in a second, Qingyi will consume all Flash Connect voltage and exit the Flash Connect state. And for every 1% of Flash Connect voltage consumed over 75%, her damage and days inflicted by this skill will be increased by 1% for the damage and 0.5% for the days. Also, the Enchanted Moonlit Blossoms itself does not accumulate this Flash Connect voltage percentage. Now jumping into that Enchanted Moonlit Blossom, this just states that while you're in that Flash Connect state, you're going to hold the basic attack to activate this. And it's going to launch 5 consecutive forward rush attacks and then execute a finishing strike that inflicts massive electric damage. Now, when you release the basic attack during this Enchanted Moonlit Blossom attack, it will trigger that finishing strike early, so you kind of have control over when you want to release. It feels a lot like Zhu Yuan, where you hold the attack button and she's in that suppressive mode. Now, here's the cool part about this. If you activate that finishing strike a little bit early, and just before the character is attacked, it will trigger a perfect dodge. And this will be very important when we look at the core skill later. Also, a nice little quality of life here is that your anti-interrupt level is increased during this attack. And Qingyi is also invulnerable to damage during the finishing blow.
Looking at her dodge and her quick assist and her other assists that she has, these are going to be very similar and basically the exact same to what you're going to see in other characters, but because she is specifically a stun character, you're actually going to want to make sure to kind of level into these a little bit, especially because, as Rift talked about, you're already doing some perfect dodges and whatnot here and there. You're going to be increasing your days multiplier. In my personal opinion, with most of your stun characters, making sure to level all across on everything you do with this is going to make sure that you're dazing or stunning things quicker, which in my personal opinion is going to be best for you. So make sure, even though these don't have anything special in them for us to talk about, they should be leveled into either way. Now let's go ahead and talk about her special attack. Her special attack, the first one, is called Sunlit Glory. You'll use your special attack and this will quickly strike upward and will be followed by a downward smash, dealing electric damage, and the anti-interrupt level is increased while using this skill. The EX special attack is called Moonlit Begonia. When Qingyi has enough energy, you will then use this strike to go upwards and then leap into the air, turning around and launching a series of strikes, then following that up with a powerful downward smash, dealing more and higher amounts of massive electric damage. If you hold this, on the other hand, you can then consume additional energy to increase the combo hits that you do in the series of strikes that you do. The character is invulnerable while using this skill.
Now let's look at Qingyi's chain attack and ultimate. Her chain attack is called Tranquil Serenade and states that when a chain attack is triggered and you use Qingyi during this, you're going to launch a series of powerful strikes over a large area in front of you, dealing massive electric damage. When this attack hits an enemy, the skill's damage increases by 3% for every stack of subjugation in core passive Eternal Seasons that the target has, and we will talk about that here in just a minute. Also note that the character is invulnerable during the skill. And the ultimate is basically the same thing, you're just not getting that increase to damage multiplier based on the subjugation. The damage multiplier of the ultimate is already well over the multiplier of the chain attack itself, so it's either way going to be a lot more damage.
Now let's go ahead and talk about her core skill. Looking at her core passive, Eternal Seasons, when Qingyi lands a finishing strike on an enemy with her basic attack, Enchanted Moonlit Blossoms, it applies 5 stacks of subjugation to the enemy, stacking up to 20 times. Each stack of subjugation increases the target's stun damage multiplier by 3%. For each rush attack during basic attack Enchanted Moonlit Blossoms, the finishing strike will apply an extra stack of subjugation. If perfect dodge is triggered when using the finishing strike, it directly applies 10 stacks of subjugation. When applying subjugation to a normal or elite enemies, the applied stacks are doubled. When the target recovers from being stunned, the corresponding stacks of subjugation are then reset. And the additional ability, 3 Verses of Farewell at Yang Pass, activated when there is at least one attack type character or a character from the same faction in your squad. Basic attacks deal 20% increased days. If Qingyi's impact is greater than 120, each point over the 120 increases her attack by 6 with a maximum of up to 600. I think overall, looking at this character, I'm extremely excited to look forward and see what Qingyi can do. Obviously, as a stun character, as well as being paired probably with a character like Zhu Yuan, a kind of almost meta-breaking character. Looking at a beginning solid characters we've gotten at the beginning of the game, we've gotten some great attack type characters. I'm really excited to see what Qingyi can do for a Zhu Yuan team. Obviously, with Qingyi, she does seem, as you kind of saw with her kit, she's a little bit more on field. And Rift, you can either combat me on that or agree with me. Either one, like, I feel like she's going to be a little bit more on field. And especially with Zhu Yuan kind of taking her time off field, but also kind of taking her time off field, almost that quote unquote quick swappy. She likes to be on field, but she likes her kind of other characters to be on field to kind of help out until she gets on field. Whereas other characters like Ellen Zhou specifically can kind of stay on field for longer periods of time and just want their supports to come on field to buff them and then get back off field. So at least with Qingyi, it seems like she's going to be helpful specifically, obviously, for Zhu Yuan because of the playstyle that she fits. They are kind of partners, so everything she's going to be kind of doing, especially a really, really strong character like this, especially for stun, for electric, I think is going to be pretty helpful for what Zhu Yuan already does.
Yeah, I would actually agree with you when you talk about, characters wanting to take a lot of field time. I feel like that's just because of the kind of game Zenless is in the combat area, and we see this in Wuthering Waves as well. Most of the characters in the entire cast usually get some sort of field time that's at least more than 2 seconds. Some of them can be out for 2 seconds or less. There are those characters in the cast, but most of them, and we see this in Qingyi here, are going to be out for quite a while, and it kind of feels even between the 3 characters. There's usually an average of the same amount of field time between the 3. Of course, you mentioned Ellen, though, she can basically stay on field for as long as she wants. As long as she works for herself pretty well. You would only need to go into like Sokaku just to get the fly the banner and get that attack buff for her again, or just pull out Lycan for the stun. So there is that. But Qingyi, like you said, does feel like she wants a little bit of the field time, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all, because it does look like she actually has a lot of damage potential, even though, I think a lot of players, we see a stun character more as a support than we do a damage. And while that's true in, the sense that they can apply daze a lot faster than any other character type, they also deal a lot of damage. I mean, I've even been seeing a lot of damage coming from my Ambi. My Lycan has been dealing a lot of damage. And so, and we know Qingyi is going to get even more attack, like you just mentioned, when you have another attack type character or another character from the same faction. She gets even more attack whenever you have a lot of impact, because you always want to put impact on these stun characters that apply daze. So I feel like Qingyi's damage potential is actually going to be pretty impressive, and we'll have to just see how that plays out when she actually releases. But yeah, like you said, I think she's going to be a very good teammate for Zhu Yuan, and I feel like the Zhu Yuan team, the best team right now, is something like Zhu Yuan, Nicole, and then just another support that can increase attack or something like that. I feel like Qingyi is definitely going to, you're going to slot her in the Zhu Yuan team and obviously keep using Nicole so that you can get the defense shred. It just makes sense. And I feel like that's going to be the best team for a while. We'll have to just wait and see what new S tier characters come out, maybe even a future A tier character to replace Nicole. Who knows? So I'm pretty excited about Qingyi. I'm also, besides Zhu Yuan, I'm actually excited to see what other things you can do just with other attack type characters. Maybe you could do something with Ellen Zhou here. Now, of course, that's not going to be probably as good as just using Lycan, because Lycan's the same element. It kind of just makes sense for the mono ice team. But there's all kinds of these other attack type characters, even the 4-stars. Maybe they'll get a bit of an upgrade here with Qingyi. And it's obviously the S tier version of Ambi is kind of the vibe I get with this character, being electric and stun, while the only other character is Ambi. So I think it's going to be a great character. I guess one of the questions would be, and I kind of want to hear your opinion on this, Vixen, is she actually worth if you already have Ambi?
Well, that actually goes back to another point you were bringing up that I was going to bring up, was that you said right now that one of the better teams you probably get with her is Zhu Yuan, another support character. But I might argue that actually, instead of throwing a support character, on top of already having Nicole with Zhu Yuan, that is the combo that you want to do right now, is having Nicole. That is correct. But I don't think that throwing another support in there, even someone like a Sokaku or a Lucy, for instance, that are buffing attack in different areas in different ways, I think that actually the better way to go about it is to throw in Ambi. And the reason why is with Zhu Yuan's core skill, she actually does 40% damage increase when you have, or doing damage against a stunned enemy. And that's already given a 40% increase when you use enhanced shot shells in her suppressive mode from her core passive. But it's increased another 40% when it's done against stunned enemies. So you'll see a lot of people usually use another stunner. And so that's why I think even more so why Qingyi is going to be amazing for Zhu Yuan. Now, you brought up the point that looking at stunners in general, why get Qingyi if you already have someone like Ambi? I think there's a few different, positives as to why Qingyi is going to be better than Ambi. Personally, for me, it is still a toss-up. I don't really know. We're so early in the game, I'm not sure that pulling supports or whatever for a 5-star, or the attack 5-star character is going to be best, but I do think that, Qingyi is obviously going to bring that team to the next level. The personal damage that you're going to get out of Qingyi is going to be higher than what you're going to get out of Ambi. So what you're already seeing in Ambi is probably going to be much, much higher, already because she's a 5-star, but because, once again, as we saw, the attack buffs, just the multipliers in general, the S tier stats that she has, either way you look at it, Qingyi's going to be a better character for it. But I do think that Ambi has a special place already in that team and does extremely well as that's actually what I'm using right now. I don't know if you can or you should, which way you should go. Personally, for me, I don't think it's necessary to go after Qingyi to make your Zhu Yuan extremely good. Ambi does just fine at that. But if you are thinking, I want to make my Zhu Yuan the best she can be, it's then looking for Nicole Cons as well as looking for Qingyi to throw in the team and W engines and whatnot and stuff like that. But I do think if you want to make your Zhu Yuan the best, Qingyi is definitely the way to go. But if you're thinking, I want to make a separate team, or I want to, look at another character like Jane Doe's coming up in the future, maybe some of these characters coming on down the line, you have to think, do I want to make this one team extremely good, or should I think about a little bit in the future and make two really, really good teams and be okay with making my Ambi extremely good for my Zhu Yuan and maybe pull Qingyi on a, release later on down the line if she comes back for a rerun.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of great points you bring up. Very great advice. One thing I just really like about Qingyi, and you did touch on this a little earlier, the fact that Zhu Yuan and Qingyi are kind of partners in the game, and lore-wise, I like how much in the basic attack she kind of does feel like the style of Zhu Yuan, because for those of you who know how Zhu Yuan work and have her, you know that you always go into the suppressive mode and you're holding the basic attack button and you feel really kind of heavy and you're dealing a lot of big damage with those shot shells. And it just it's really satisfying. And, seeing Qingyi do a similar thing with her enhanced basic attack and those enchanted moonlit blossoms, I feel like it's going to, feel a lot the same to Zhu Yuan. So using them together is probably just going to be really satisfying.
And another thing, if we're even thinking about that, as to why they're great characters together, basic attacks deal 20% increased days for the additional ability that you get from Qingyi, and you're already probably doing that considering you have Zhu Yuan in that team as well. So you're already getting more days from basic attacks, whether that's coming from Qingyi herself or other characters. And since, obviously you're giving just basically Zhu Yuan more days to go, just faster to then give that idea to stun something quicker while she's on field, makes maybe Qingyi's job a little bit easier, but also I think, makes her, obviously Qingyi's job easier to stun them quicker for Zhu Yuan to come out on field and do more damage. So I do think that overall, it's great to see that how combined and well these characters do well, because Zhu Yuan heavily depends on, well, to an extent depends on that extra 40% stun damage. It's a pretty big buff that you're losing out on whenever she doesn't have that for stunned characters or stunned enemies she's attacking. So Qingyi is helping her, but at the same time Zhu Yuan is also helping Qingyi. So it's kind of a give and take relationship that they have. And even going beyond that, beyond someone like Zhu Yuan, some people who are really hyped about using someone like Billy, who also focuses in basic attacks, this could work out well for him as well. Well, that's everything we've got talking about Qingyi. If you guys did enjoy the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. If you guys are looking forward to Qingyi, please go ahead and let us know down in the comments. And we do have a Discord as well if you guys want to check that out as well. Thank you guys for watching the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.